the 8th of September 2023, France hosted and played in the opening match at the Rugby World Cup. They faced a decently strong All Blacks side, but as hosts they knew they needed to get the job done. Convincingly, they blew away their opponents 27-13, and had many rugby fans, including myself, convinced that this might actually be their time. After years of ups and downs, with a bright young up-and-coming side, this had to be their moment, surely. But it wasn't to be, crashing out in the quarterfinals by a single point to eventual winners South Africa. Despite putting up a fantastic fight till the end, and being edged out narrowly, many French players and fans were frustrated, not only because they were hosts in one of the better sides, but also the fact that they'd been in this position and in even better ones before, but failed to succeed. Yeah, that's right, this isn't the first time France had fallen short on the world stage. This defeat last year was the fourth time they'd been knocked out of the quarterfinal stage. To make it worse, they'd been knocked out in the semi-final 3 times, in 1995, 2003 and 2007. However, these mean little in comparison to their 3 World Cup final defeats, in 1987, 1999 and 2011 respectively. Now going back to last year's defeat, you can start to understand why many French players and fans were upset. Yes, they had come up 1 point short against a horde of South Africa, but up to this point their record on this tournament wasn't great. The stats simply don't lie. 3 World Cup final defeats in 3 different decades begs the question, are France rugby's biggest what if? The World Cup is the premier competition for international rugby, and for such a dominant rugby nation in France, we must begin to ask ourselves, how have they fallen short this many times? If we look at the build-up to each final, we begin to get a better understanding as to whether or not they look likely to win each tournament, and what they can learn from this going forward. The French national rugby team in the 1980s was a formidable force in international rugby. Coached by Jacques Ferrou, the team went on to take the 1981 Five Nations Championship, now 6 nations, and continued to perform well on the international stage, winning it again in February of 1987, putting them in a great position for the inaugural World Cup later that year. Hosted by Australia and New Zealand, the Rugby World Cup gave France the opportunity to test their skills on the big stage. In their pool they would draw against Scotland 20-all, but high-scoring wins against Romania and Zimbabwe gave them confidence as they cruised to the quarterfinals. They would win their 3rd match in a row, overcoming Fiji 31-16. The toughest opponent yet, and with the odds stacked against them, France took on pre-tournament favourites Australia at Concord Oval for a place in the final. In one of the greatest World Cup matches, the Wallabies appeared to be in control, leading 9-0, 15-12 and 24-21 at various stages of the match, only for the French to keep coming back. With the scores locked at 24-all and the prospect of extra time looming, the French scored one of the most memorable tries in rugby history. Fullback Serge Blanco beat the Wallabies hooker Tom Lowton to score a try in the corner. The French were victorious and would face co-host New Zealand in the final at Eden Park. Everything had gone right for France thus far. They remained unbeaten and seemed to have grown over the tournament, with their most impressive performance being their most recent. Could they, against the odds, go all the way? They couldn't. Being outplayed by a world-class All Blacks team, they lost 29-9. But despite the loss, reaching the final was a significant achievement for France, as it showed they could hang around with the best teams, and even better, gave them a great base to build on, which they needed if they wanted to go all the way. The build-up to the 1999 World Cup was marked by successes and defeats for the French, who under their head coach Jean-Claude Scrella won back-to-back Five Nations Championships in 1997 and 1998 respectively. However, they would finish 4th the year after, which was pretty worrying, with the World Cup being just over 6 months away. France would go unbeaten in the pool stages, with wins against Canada, Namibia and Fiji, so beat an up-and-coming Argentina side 47-26 in the quarterfinal, where they would meet a familiar foe in the All Blacks. The 2 sides hadn't met since the inaugural final 12 years prior, but this French team knew what they had to do, win, and that's exactly what they did, pulling off one of, if not the greatest World Cup comebacks, overturning a 24-10 deficit against a world-class All Black side to win 43-31, reaching the final. Yet again they faced a familiar foe in Australia, and knew they'd have to be at their best if they wanted to go all the way. However, they wouldn't, losing 35-12 to a fantastic Australia side. Ironically, Australia would win their 2nd World Cup, whilst France lost their 2nd final in the space of just 4 tournaments. It couldn't be lack of skill, as they'd beaten a world-class All Black side. The only thing that they could hope for now was another opportunity, and yet again that's what they get 12 years later. In 2010, France would dominate the Six Nations, going undefeated to win the Grand Slam, but would finish as runners-up the next year. Though not ideal, it put the French in a good position, heading into the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand later that year. The remainder of France's 2011 campaign was marked by turmoil within the camp. Reports before the tournament indicated as many as 25 of the 30-member squad had turned against head coach Marc Lièvremont. In pool play, France had unimpressive wins over Japan and Canada, an expected loss to New Zealand, and a shock loss to Tonga. During this stage, Lièvremont heavily criticised the team in the media, further angering many of his players, with veteran back rower Emmanuel Harin-Odoki publicly critical of the head coach, telling the French rugby publication Midi Olympique we had to free ourselves from his supervision. Despite the losses, they qualified for the knockouts narrowly, where they defeated England 19-12, and then controversially beat Wales 9-8 in the semi-final, after their captain Sam Warburton was sent off. They'd done it. They'd finally made it to their third World Cup final. Despite the tensions that had been ongoing, they were 80 minutes away from glory. Finally. Rematch against the All Blacks at Eden Park awaited France in the final. The All Blacks would take the lead through a try after just 15 minutes, but in the second half they would extend their lead through a penalty, meaning France were down by 8 points. However, France's captain Thierry Dusautois would step up when they needed him most, scoring a try which was converted by Francois Trinduc to make it a 1-point game. Then something happened. France were given a penalty, a lifeline. This was their opportunity. In the 65th minute, Trinduc attempted a penalty kick from 48 metres out, but missed. With few chances for either side thereafter, France had lost their third World Cup final and had cemented their status as rugby's biggest what-if. So, are France rugby's biggest what-if? Well, I mean, it's up to you to decide. But based on all that I've just said, surely they've got to be. They've lost 3 World Cup finals in 3 different decades, and had Trinduc converted in 2011, and I probably wouldn't have been making this video, let's be honest. Furthermore, they failed to win the 3 World Cups since then, and it looks like the way they're going, having most recently been knocked out of their own World Cup, that we could be waiting a while. Well, you've made it to the end of the video. Make sure to like, share and subscribe for more of the best rugby content. Also, thanks for the support on the previous video, the entire history of the All Blacks. If you haven't seen it, the link will be in the description below. With that all said and done, it's been your boy Rugby Central 1, and I'll see you next time.